Welcome to episode number 2 of Manuscripting Pod, a show where I talk about writing, explore procrastination, and attempt to keep my inner critic hogtied and in the corner. In this episode, I talk about getting myself distraction-free. This week, in terms of books I've been reading Jay Hawkins' book, As Long as Love Lasts, which is a lovely story where the main character is in a failing marriage. The couple decides to embark on the repair of an old home, discovering a series of letters and a journal detailing the love and loss of another couple. It's charming and very sweet. In the education portion of the reading, I'm also reading Tom Welling's book called One Note, The Ultimate Guide. It's not ultimate anything. It's not telling me anything I don't already know about OneNote. The main topic of this episode is how easily distracted I am, the tools and whatnot I use to be a little more distraction-free. There are as many ways to avoid distraction as there are distractions. Avoiding distraction can be a distraction in and of itself. I had some serious FOMO going on when I saw so many people picking up the AlphaSmart word processors off eBay for about $15. And then I saw my RSVP co-hosts Dee, and she had picked up an AlphaSmart. She brought it when she came over to visit, and the FOMO disappeared. I love the idea. Simple keyboard where you can see a line or two of text that you're writing and nothing more. The idea reminds me of the word processor I used in college, the Canon Starwriter, or it might have been called something else, but I remember Starwriter. And it integrated a bubble jet printer into the word processor, so all I needed to do was hit print and it would spit out my paper. I churned out papers on that thing for several years, and it was a really great tool. I really enjoyed it. The AlphaSmart hearkened to not only my FOMO, but also my nostalgia. There was a time when I put my butt in the chair and churned out words without an anxious thought, and just the impending deadline given by my professor. Lo, I would love to get back to those days. As I discussed in the last episode, I'm a person who loves schedules. Give me a deadline and I'll relentlessly pursue the project until it's finished or the deadline has passed. I've always done my best work with a deadline in place. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why NaNoWriMo has worked so well for me. 50,000 words by the end of November, button chair, fingers on keys, churn, churn, churn. Boom, done. The rest of my life has no deadlines. Unlike Nano, the rest of my life doesn't have a deadline. Rather, it has flexibility built in. If I don't get my words in today, there's always tomorrow. No one will die if I don't write today. Never mind that my creativity suffers and shrivels up. My anxiety increases. Further, my nagging inner critic loosens up her hog ties and begins to run free. So how then do I ignore my own FOMO and nostalgia and set up my life for more distraction-free writing? Let me start with technology. The book The Craving Mind, which I mentioned in the last episode, really talks about how addicted we are as people to notifications and the alerts that come up on our phone. And so one of the things that actually I did before I read The Craving Mind, I did this several years ago, I turned off all notifications on my phone, not just for social media, but for everyone. And that might not be feasible for everyone, but for me, I'm really, every time I would see that red dot on the corner of my notifications, it was a cue for me to go and check Facebook, go and check Twitter, go and check WhatsApp or one of the other messaging services. And it would nag on me until I clicked and made that little red dot disappear. And there was sort of I was cued to make that red dot disappear. I needed to make the dot disappear, and the best way to do that was to check the messages. So turning off those push notifications and all of the other notifications that show up on my phone really allowed me to lessen my dependence on my phone and not look at all of the notifications all of the time now to see if anyone has messaged me on Facebook, or if someone has liked a photo on Instagram, or someone has sent me a message on Twitter. I have to actually check those apps. And basically, I do that now on my lunch break. I do it after work. I do it in the evening when I come home. But I'm not on my phone constantly. I also notice that I spend a lot more time checking social media and checking updates and whatnot on everything more when I don't feel great. If I'm overtired or I haven't slept well or I'm feeling particularly anxious, I check those those apps more often than when I am well rested and feel good. Anyway, so turning off all notifications is relatively easily if you are on a Android system like me. They now allow for you go into a particular spot on the settings on your phone, and you can turn off notifications for each app. You can also do it within the apps, but I found that Facebook in particular, when I go in and I turn off and say, I want no push notifications, I want no notifications from Facebook, Facebook will often make global changes and not notify me of those changes. So all of a sudden I'm getting those little red dots on Facebook again. So basically turning them off via my phone, which blocks them, is the best thing for me. So in addition to the notifications on the tools that I'm actually using for writing. So I use a tablet. I have more than one tablet, but let's not go into that. I use a tablet combined with a Bluetooth keyboard. I would get an AlphaSmart, except for the fact that when I was using Dee's or playing around with it a little bit when she first got it, it's bulky. It's not heavy. They're relatively lightweight, but they're bulky. And to me, as part of my everyday carry philosophy or practical carry, having another tool in my bag I've worked really hard to make what I carry around with me as lightweight as possible and to minimize the number of items that I'm carrying. So for me, it's my Kindle. I use my Kindle Fire, as well as a Bluetooth keyboard to minimize that carry. I can also use my phone if I don't want to bring my tablet, if I want to get really seriously lightweight. So tablet and Bluetooth keyboard. And the way that I have my tablet set up is it's just for reading and just for typing. So I don't have any social media on my tablet. I do have a music service, but I'll get into that later when I talk about the apps. So I have the app that I use for writing. I have the app for the music service, and that's about it. And I've actually hidden and deleted a bunch of the apps that come bundled onto it. Obviously, I have the Kindle app on it, and then on my phone I have the Nook app, but that's beside the point. So basically, the whole point of that setup is that it's lightweight and minimal with my everyday carry. I can carry it in any of my bags relatively easily. That's part of my philosophy is like, I want to carry as little as possible. So the combination of the Kindle Fire 8-inch plus the Bluetooth keyboard can fit into the neoprene sleeve that the keyboard goes into, and then fit into the padded laptop slot on my backpack, or fit together into like one of my messenger bags. So that's important for me. So in terms of the apps that I use, for writing, I use JotterPad plus Dropbox and Docs. Now, obviously on a Kindle Fire, Docs does not work particularly well, so JotterPad is my go-to. JotterPad is a lovely little app. I use now I use the paid version. I've purchased the add-ons that go along with the app, which are relatively inexpensive compared to other apps. So JotterPad let me tell you about the add-ons, has a creative, has markdown preview, syntax highlighting, dark theme, typewriter mode, custom typefaces. It has a thesaurus and rhyming dictionary. You can do snapshots. There's a PDF watermark that you can remove. And then it will also export in docs, which is important for later. Pro has other export features. Cloud Plus is 99 cents a month. I don't use that. But I have the creative account. I'll probably upgrade to the Pro account at some point. But what's really great about it is you can set up folders for whatever you're working on. And so like I have a folder for all of my old work. I have a folder for outlines. I have a folder for each novel that I've been working on. The app, what I really like about it is that it allows me, with the creative add-on, to have a typewriter set up, which means I can only see 3 lines at a time, and everything else is grayed out, and I use it with the black or dark setting, which makes it really useful for me to only be able to see those couple of lines. I'm not editing as I work. I'm not checking out like the typos that I'm getting, and I always have a ton of typos, particularly now that I'm having some pretty serious carpal tunnel problems. So that's really useful to me. And then combining it with Dropbox allows that I'm working on the tablet. I don't have to rely on the memory of the tablet. As long as I've got a Wi-Fi connection, it saves it automatically to Dropbox. I do have to manually push it to save, so that's an important thing to remember. And I have on occasion, like I lost 1,000 words once because I didn't push it to save, and I was using my old tablet, and it crashed on me, which was annoying. So anyway, using JotterPad lets me get the words out without thinking about it too much. I also use Productivity Challenge as an app which times me. It's based on the Pomodoro method, but it calls you names and makes fun of you if you don't complete or you don't work long enough in a day. So I find the Productivity Challenge really, really helpful at keeping me on track. I also use OneNote, which, is one of the reasons that I mentioned it in the intro and things that I'm reading. OneNote, I used to be a really big fan of Evernote until they made it that you can't have it on every device. And because I have several tablets that I type into, and I also have a laptop plus my phone that I use for research purposes, I need to be able to have the app on everything and be able to access the information on all of the tools that I'm using. And in that case, OneNote just works so much better for me. It's pretty much an Evernote clone. As much as I prefer the Evernote setup, OneNote is a good enough copy of it. So that's really useful for me. And then another app that I use is I have to have a music app and a pair of good headphones. Right now I'm using Slacker Radio. My wife is getting me a subscription to it for my birthday, which is really awesome. Pandora is a close second. I used to use Pandora back when I had my crappy corporate job, and I did use a paid subscription to that so that I could have my own playlists and whatnot. I've also used Spotify in the past, but I question a service that claims to curate their podcasts and then allows Alex Jones on there. But anyway, that's a philosophical thing. So Slacker Radio is my current favorite. The sound is great. When I'm out and about, I use a pair of Sennheiser CX300 2s. They're really great sounding little earbuds that fit really closely in my ears. They feel great. They're lightweight. They don't stress my ears out. And they work really well. I do wish that they had a sound bar on them so that I could control the volume, but oh well. There are other versions of the Sennheiser CX300s that do have the ability to control the volume. So check out a pair of those. Those are great. So that's today's episode. I realized that as part of my podcast, since I'm trying to keep myself on track here, I didn't include as a heading what have I actually done this week in terms of writing? And because I'm recording this before the end of the week, my plan in the future is that I'm going to record one of these per week and post it. I haven't done my 5 out of 7 days, but I have typed the two out of the 3 days since the last time I recorded. So that's a positive. And my plan is to do 5 out of 7. So I'm pretty happy with that so far. In terms of my spotlight, I want to thank the Lesfic chat, the Slack group, for being some of the kindest people on the internet chatting about writing, queer issues, and giving advice and feedback. They are just lovely people, and being able to talk to people and give them feedback as well on their writing has been fabulous. I've really enjoyed it. So this week's pod image is one I created. If you'd like to have your image as the week's pod image, label your pick with the hashtag Manuscripting Pod on Instagram. Each week I'll pick one and give you a shout out on the podcast. I want to give a shout out to the folks who've already been so supportive of this podcast. Toffer, thank you so much. And Harry Marks, thank you for giving me some feedback and props, even though the first episode has only aired. I appreciate it so much. And just a big thanks to everyone on Instagram and Twitter for giving me feedback as well. Finally, if you want to show your support for the show, head on over to your favorite location and leave a review. If you've left a review or you don't want to engage with Apple, share the show on your favorite or least favorite social media location. If you want to support me with cash money, which I'll probably spend on stationery and coffee, head on over to Ko-fi. Feel free to find me on social media at Original LC Harper on most locations. You can find the site over at manuscriptingpod.com. Thanks! Have a good week writing.